Welcome to Technique Tuesday. My name is Sharon Rogers and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Wells, Maine. And for the last 2 months during my Technique Tuesday, which is the second Tuesday of each month, I have shown you techniques to use with your embossing folders. And tonight is my third and final installment of techniques using embossing folders. Let's get started. For this technique, I'm going to be using the new 12 by 12 two-tone cardstock, this one in garden green. This two-tone cardstock has two tones, a darker green, garden green on one side, and then just a lighter version on the other. And inside, there's a white core, which is very important for this technique. I'm going to cut this down to, let's see, I'm going to go with 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. I think that'll be pretty good. I'm going to bring in my Painted Trees 3D embossing folder. Living in Maine, we have lots of these trees around, and I'm just going to decide where I want my trees on here, and I think I want them right here. I'm going to put a sentiment right up there, I believe. We're going to emboss this, which means we need our number 1 plate, our folder with our cardstock in it, and the number 4 plate. Just run that right through. Folded edge first, right? And it puts some embossing on here. Now, I don't know if you can actually see on camera, but you can see a little bit of white in here. This is a white core. Now, Stampin' Up's regular cardstock is a dyed cardstock, which means it is color all the way through. This is a printed cardstock, which means that they've laid a layer of ink on the top and on the other side. That's how you get the two-tone look. But the center is white. Now I'm going to take a nail, a sanding block. You can get this at a nail salon. And if I gently kind of brush over the top of this embossing, you can see that it is revealing that white core. Now, I don't want to sand too much, but this is just going to give the impression of some snow-kissed branches. And so if you see any spots that are a little bit, that you want to get a little bit more, you can kind of aim on those specifically. And so now we have snowy trees, and we can just make a card out of this. So I'm going to bring in a piece of basic white that is 1/4 of an inch larger, 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And we will adhere this then I'm going to bring in a base of garden green card base. And we'll adhere that. Now, of course, we need a sentiment. I would love Let It Snow, but I don't think I have a Let It Snow sentiment. I'm going to bring in my Unbounded Love stamp set. I think I'm going to do Hope is Believing in a Brighter Tomorrow, because I you know, that's what the world looks like to me after a snowstorm. You know, after this past weekend snowstorm, the sun came out and it was beautiful. The sun was shining, just really, really pretty. So I'm gonna get the hope out, and for the inside is believing in a brighter tomorrow. So that's this one. And we'll get our garden green. So we're just using a monochromatic card here. And I'm gonna stamp. I just have this piece of white hanging out. I'm gonna stamp that right there. I'm gonna create a little banner. And let's bring in some scissors here. If I cut up what is roughly the center, and then cut from one corner to the top of that. There we go. We've got a little banner here that we can put down. Oh, it's a little, I think it's a little off center, so we're gonna keep cutting it a little bit more. Get a nice, there we go. That's a much better banner. And I can see that I want to cut right about there. I can probably do that with my scissors. Let's bring in my paper trimmer anyway. Cut that off. So this ends up measuring about 2¼ inches, and it is 1¼ inches wide. I'm gonna bring in the jewel tone, the natural tones linen thread, because we've got this beautiful garden green here as well. We're just gonna wrap that around here. We'll tie it in a bow, stick it on with dimensionals. Now, if you wanted to add some snow in the background, I would probably do that first, maybe with the falling snow stamp set. But I'm just leaving it like it is here. Let's trim these ends a little bit. And get my little bow out here. We're gonna just put that right there. Some dimensionals. Okay. Now we have that right there. Just a very, very simple card. Again, if there's some other spots that you notice that you want to just kind of sand down to expose some of that white center, you can do that. So you can do it as much. This is a very detailed embossing folder. So there are different levels. Some are really high peaks and some are just, you know, some moderate ones. So you do it as much or as little as you want. You can see that you expose more and more each time. Just blow it off because you've got a bunch of, you know, dust laying around. Oh, I bent my card as I was doing that. There we go. And then we just need something for the inside. Let's see. I'm gonna just do a little piece inside. So this happens to be 3 inches. So I'll do 4¼ 4¼ and we'll stamp this other sentiment. Hope is believing in a brighter tomorrow, and we'll bring in our adhesive. And just put this right down in here. Well, not a lot of area to write. You know what? I'm going to show you what else you can do. Just to make it a little bit different, I'm going to take that designer series paper again, and I'm going to use, oops, that's the cardstock. I'm going to take the designer series paper and I'm going to use the lighter side. So it's going to be just a little bit different. And I'm going to cut this down so that it is 4.5 by 3 1/4, just a 1/4 of an inch larger. And I want to make sure I mount this on the light side so that it stands out a little bit. It doesn't add much bulk to the inside of the card because this is a lighter weight cardstock. It's heavier than DSP, but lighter than the really great Stampin' Up! Cardstock that is dyed all the way through. And so you can just see a little bit of a difference. And so there is our card. That was a pretty easy technique, right? And the best part is that those sanding blocks are very inexpensive and can be found at any beauty supply store and probably most big box stores. Now, because this is a Technique Tuesday, the class is free to watch. However, if you would like the class card kit, which will provide you with the cardstock and designer series paper and any embellishments that you need, plus the envelopes, to recreate to each of the 3 designs tonight, then simply place an order of $35 or more in my online store. You can find the link to my online store in the description of this video. And don't forget, we're in celebration, so if your order is $60 or more, you will also be able to select a celebration item. And we not only have the items that were found in the celebration brochure, which I'm trying to find right now, but also the extra ones that debuted at the beginning of this month. So you can get things like the Alphabet a la Mode dies, which is over a $40 value. You can get some stamp sets. You could get the beautiful butterfly stamp set that I think that is in stock right now. The hybrid dies are not, but they're due back in very shortly, either this week or next week. And those are part of my February Clubhouse, which is a private subscription-based class. There's all sorts of other good things, so check that out. You can find that information in my online store as well. All right, let's do another card, shall we? For this next technique, I'm bringing in the So Swirly embossing folder. This is not a 3D embossing folder, and I find that the regular embossing folders, the non-3D ones, work best for this next technique because it's a lower profile of embossing. I'm bringing in my Balmy Blue ink pad, and I'm creating a wintry, blustery kind of feel for this background. Because after all, we have hit winter finally. On your folder, you're going to identify the side that has the Stampin' Up! Logo. On this particular folder, it doesn't really matter because both sides will give you, similar looks. Some is raised and some is not. But typically the side that's got the Stampin' Up! Logo is the side that you put against or onto your card. I'm going to take my brayer. Now a brayer is this is a very, very smooth surface. And when I set it down, this brayer has little feet. Well, they don't really look like feet, but these parts that hang down, if I set this down, my wheel still spins. And that's important because it means that my brayer is not, the rubber part is not resting on a flat surface, because over time, if that happens, it creates a flat surface on the brayer just because of the pressure. And that affects your inking. So it's really great that these keep it off that surface. When you are inking up a brayer, you want to roll and pick up roll and pick up, and just keep rolling and picking up. Because if you just went back and forth like this, you'd only end up inking about half of the roller, just the bottom half. And you want to get the ink all the way around. So we're inking it up, and then I'm going to transfer that ink just by rubbing it back and forth on my embossing folder. Getting nice even coverage. I'm going to make sure I put the feet down. Let's put a piece of basic white in there. And you can kind of see the blue peeking through. That's what we're doing. We're making, it's almost like it's a stamped image where our stamp is the embossing folder. I'm going to bring this in. Plate number 1, our emboss, oops, this is a non-3D embossing folder, so we don't use plate number 4. We're going to use plates 2 and 3. Let me get those. I forgot for a second what I was doing. And it tells you right on here when you're doing embossing folders. So standard embossing folders, you're going to use plate 1, then you're going to use a number 3 plate and another number 3 plate with your embossing folder in between. So I have a number 3, this, so we're not using the number 2 plate that we use for die cutting in here. And this one's gonna, since I'm having a hard time going through it first, just because my plates are a little bit warped. And so when I take this out, you get a beautifully marbled paper. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? Oh, I love it. And that's gonna make a very nice wintry card in just a moment. And then if I were to show you what happens if you were to ink the other side of this, let me do that real quickly. I mentioned that it probably wasn't going to make much of a difference on this one. And that's true. This is going to put ink on the recessed areas if you use the debossed side. It's going to look pretty much the same. I just want to prove it to you. Normally I would wash it, and to get the ink off this, all you need to do is run it under water. So I just take mine to the sink and do that. So plate 1, plate 3, my embossing folder. Now if you ever have trouble running your plates through, try making that top plate run through before any of the other ones. It just sort of grabs it and feeds it through. So remember, this time we were focused on the side without the Stampin' Up! Logo, this side. So it's a little bit harder to see, but the blue is in the recessed portions. Similar, except for the recessed portions were a lot greater here. So, but it's still the same kind of look. Now, if I showed you what happened with the 3D folders, I did a couple in advance so that you could see what they would look like. This is done with running the layered floral 3D folder through. It's a much higher profile, so it didn't put a lot of ink in the background here just because so much of this was popped up. And if I show you the debossed side, which is the second side that I did here, it did put some color in some of the petals of the flower, but not all of them, because again, the 3D has a lot more dimension to it. So that's why I say it is, you have to pick and choose your folders pretty carefully for this particular technique, but I love it with the So Swirly technique. We used to have one celebration, we had some marbled paper, and it was beautiful. And this is how you can get that same effect. I love this. Let's make a card out of it. I have gone ahead and brought in my Winterly Treetops bundle, and a suite actually, because I brought in the paper as well. And I've gone ahead and die cut out these birds. They're my absolute favorite, but there is another single bird that if you get the kit, you'll probably get one of the double birds and one of the single birds to make your cards. So they won't be exactly alike, but they'll be very, very similar. Stampin' Up! Doesn't allow me to stamp for you, but I can die cut for you. So let me just take this out. Now this was one of the dies from that suite as well, and I've used it on the two-tone paper that we used in the very, very first project. And because this is thinner paper, you want to just be very careful. Although I am going to cut this apart, I think. I'm not going to use it in the same way. I don't think. I haven't actually taken the time to think about what I'm doing yet. I just knew I wanted to use this set because winter, even though it doesn't seem it right now, it's coming to a close before we know it. And there really just is, you know, this is just such a pretty, pretty time of year here. I'm going to bring back in my swirly time. And let's see what we're going to do. We're going to put this right in here. Yep, we can put that right in there. We've got that little swirly background. If I want to see more of it, you actually can see more of it if you take it away. But here's what you can do to make for a fuller trees. If I cut this in half here, and I can cut this this design down as well, and probably will. But if I just overlay them a bit, I'm going to keep that corner over there. And I'll have this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just trim off this piece. And this one will come over here. And I will trim off this piece. And that will come over here. So we've just got some greenery at the bottom that our little birds can kind of sit on. And we can bring in these extra little pieces. There are also some of these little sprigs. There are dies themselves that cut out these little sprigs. But we can just put in some more right in here. And just make it a little bit more full. You can put that in there as well. It just makes it a little bit more full. And if you don't like the look of having that frame around the edge, certainly you can cut it off and just cut all those pieces individually. Let's go ahead and lay this down on our paper. I mean, it would be a little bit easier if we just cut it to the size of this frame, which is 3.5 by 5, but I want to see a lot of that beautiful swirly paper, so we're going to use a lot of it here. All right, there we go. There's that. And we'll put the other one. And remember, I used the two-tone paper, so if I wanted to go ahead and use a lighter color to give more depth, I could have flipped this over, or I can flip over those little separate pieces that we have. And that way it's just a little bit of difference. All right, so there we have that. I am going to snip this off a little bit. Separate these pieces a bit. And if I put them over here, I do want to hide them because of the flat bottom, I think. Let's put these in here. So you can see we have just a slightly different color variation. Kind of cool. And it kind of goes the other way. And we'll do that same thing over here. Put this right down here. We've got a couple different colors showing. And maybe one more. And we'll just tuck this right under there. Ah! Fingers are sticky. There we go. So there's our bottom. I'm going to trim this a little bit so it's a little bit more even with the other side. That's good. And we can just put our little birdies here off to the side. And I'm going to add those with dimensionals to make them really pop off the page. They don't look unhappy to be in a blizzard. We've got their food right there, so. So we'll just do something that looks just like that. And then we will add a sentiment up here. I think we're going to put this on a garden green card base. That'll help tie in this green border a little bit. I want to just slide this out here a little bit, if I can. Now I can't, so I have this little white border over here that I don't like. I'm going to bring in a Stampin' Write marker and make that disappear. So during celebration, Stampin' Write markers are part of a starter kit special. You can either get 2 color families of the Stampin' Write markers, or you can, and a stamp set that is great with them, or you can get an extra $30 of merchandise, whatever your choice is. Lots of great deals, but only for a little bit longer. And so now I've made those white edges, except for right here, disappear. Let's see. There we go. That's how you can make the white edge disappear pretty easily. And let's go ahead and put this on our card base. Ooh, almost running out of glue. It's time for a new bottle. So there we have that, and we just need something really pretty for a sentiment to go up here. And I think I'm going to use Thinking of You Always. So we'll just need a piece of, I think, white, and I'll probably bring in a little bit of green in here. We don't need this quite as wide. Let's get our Thinking of You out so we know what we do need it to be width-wise. And we'll stamp in garden green on this. I got that nice and straight. And I can see I can cut off a bit on the top. So let's go ahead and do that. My cut off, we'll make this 3/4 of an inch wide. Nope, 7/8 of an inch, I think. Yep. And it doesn't stand off of there very well. But if you bring in a piece of, now there, we had this middle that we had cut from the die. I'm going to just show you. Let me just cut right through this. We don't need this, but we can use this part that's in the middle here. So let's just cut a little bit more. And what we can do here is we can make this, we can even cut a smaller strip, I guess. Let's make it a little sliver or strip. And cut off the end here and the end here. And I don't need this anywhere near that long. So we can do this. And then we can just put this right on here, and it makes it stand off just a little bit. Just a way to make it stand off. Another thing that you can do is you can add ink to the edges of this card. Why not? Let's show you another technique, totally unrelated to what we're doing. If I just rub the edges in here, and so then we have something that stands off a little bit more. It's a little bit more rustic. You can rub it until you get the look that you want there. Yeah, that's pretty good. Do I want this also? I do. I don't want it as long. So I just want it to peek out just a little bit from each edge. That'll be good. I'll put some adhesive right on the middle of that. And we'll fuss with it until it's in the center, which I think that is. And there we go. And then we'll put this up on dimensionals. And we will be done with this card, except for the inside. But this is a card that doesn't have, thinking of you is just a very simple kind of sentiment. Probably want to write our own inside. So we will just go ahead and do that. I can bring in a stamp from my stamp set. And I can bring in this little bird down here, or I can die cut a bird from the Designer Series paper to match inside. And I decided that on the inside I would just die cut using these two dies from that Winterly Treetops die set, and just glue them down in this lower left hand corner and call it a day. The inside decorations don't have to be ornate, because they're going to be captivated by what you write more than anything. Let's see, not that card, this card right there. And there we go, a beautifully wintry card. As you can see, Crash has decided to join me, and I wanted to let you know of something coming up this weekend. I am shooting this video on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, and we just had a big snowstorm today that dumped probably about 10 inches here, but that's going to pale in comparison to what's coming at the end of the week. At the end of the week here in southern Maine, we are expecting 7 to 9 inches more of snow on Thursday, and then another 16 to 21 inches in a snowstorm that hits us Saturday into Sunday. So I've decided, let's create a crafting class and bingo event for Sunday, just so that we can have lots of fun amidst the shoveling or snow blowing or just staying inside that's going to happen. And so I hope you'll join me. The registration link is going to be in the description of this video. As long as you have some basic cardstock, some 12 by 12 DSP, and maybe some dies for labels, although that's not really necessary, then you'll be able to create right along with me. And we will play 3 rounds of bingo and 4 prizes, of course. So the cost of the class is $10, and you'll be able to join me via Zoom. So you'll want to register as soon as possible so that I can send out some bingo cards. If I miss the mail, if you register after Wednesday, then I will make sure that I put them in an email to you or text them to you as well. So I hope you'll join me for some fun. It should be just a great day of staying inside and being cozy in the craft room. All right, last project coming up. For my last embossing folder technique, I'm going to bring in a piece of 3x3 basic white, and then we'll need some Designer Series paper. Now I have the Toadstool Gardens 6x6 Designer Series paper. This is a Celebration Choice, and you can see there are lots of different prints to select from, and I'm not sure which one I want to do. I kind of like this one a lot, but I think I'm gonna start with this one, I think. We'll see. We'll see if it makes it. I'm going to cut 1-inch strips. I'm just going to cut a couple. And then I want to cut 1-inch strips from this. And I will need 9 1-inch strips. I like some of these too. Four, 5, and then I want them from the other side as well. There's 1. We're going to make a quilt pattern. 3, 4, let's see, I think that's enough. So if I were to arrange these on my 3x3 sheet, I would just alternate them. And so maybe we have this, and then we're going to have, that's a little rough. I think I need to change the blade on my paper trimmer. And then we have this, and then this. So you're going to have something that looks like this. Now I'm using the same piece of paper, but you can certainly switch some things too. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to switch some of these like that. So that's, but I could have, instead of the green, I could have brought in the pink for here, or I could have brought in the pink here and have the pink Nice and bright all around, but I think I like this one. Let's go ahead and just glue these in place. You don't want to get the glue too close to the edge, but because these are 1-inch strips, we know that we can fit them all on here perfectly. Trim a little bit more fuzz. I think I'll bring in Melon Mambo. I have a little bit of white left over here, and that's okay. I can trim that off afterwards. Come on, don't make me get a new glue just to finish off this card. I don't need that. I don't need that hassle, but I might. Come on, come on, come on. All right. I'll wave the white flag on that one. There we go. Oop, that's upside down. Green things grow up, not down. So it looks like I probably did cut this just a sliver longer than 3 inches, because now 2 rows have come and been a little bit too long. And it looks like maybe on the bottom as well. It's not super obvious. Well, it's obvious right here on this one. All right, so we have our little patchwork there. All right, let's throw this other one away. And I'm just going to trim this up a little bit. I think I will trim it with the trimmer. I just want to take a little bit off so that that white does not show. There we go. So now we have a really good piece here. Now, we're supposed to be using embossing folders, so where does that come into play? Well, it comes into play right here. We are going to faux quilt this. So if you've ever quilted, then once you do this patchwork stuff, then you kind of come in with a machine and quilt a design over it. You can use any design you want. They can be simple stitched lines. They can be more ornate. I'm going to put this Starstruck folder in here as my embossed element. That's going to give it a lot of texture. And my Starstruck embossing folder does not say 3D. So that means we're not going to use this number 4 plate. We're going to do what we did with the last one and do a sandwich with the number 1 plate and a number 3 plate. Your embossing folder with the folded edge first, and then another cutting plate. I'm just going to run that through. Oops, my folder shifted on me. All right, run that through. And let me see if you can see some of the beauty in this particular. Can you see the added texture, the Starstruck pieces? Let me show you what it would look like with a different folder. Let me cut to something a little bit more simple, like this metal plate 3D embossing folder. All right, I'm going to bring in this one, and it's a 3D embossing folder that I'm using, this metal plate. And I want to put this with the Stampin' Up! Logo facing, with the pattern side facing it. It's a 3D, so we need our number 4 plate. Just our number 1 and our number 4. So the embossing is generally not, it's not the star of the show in that it's not super duper obvious, although it is a lot more obvious on this one. This one's a lot more subtle, probably because there's a lot of these green specks in the background, but you can see it, and it certainly has a texture that you can feel. But then you've got this one that is definitely much more obvious. So I'm bringing in a piece of Granny Apple Green and cutting it to 3/4 inches square. I'm going to do the same thing for Melon Mambo. Bring in our pieces. Now that's a lot of pink right there. I think this looks pretty nice on the green as well. But I don't know. Yeah, I kind of like this one. But I kind of like this one on the pink. I know there's a lot of pink on here, but wouldn't that look nice for just like a cute little girl? But let's go ahead and just do this one that I originally did, because I know how I'm going to finish it off. Just center that on there. We're going to bring in a piece of thick basic white. So a card base of thick basic white, which I guess I will have to cut because I don't have one handy. We'll score it at 4 1/4 and then cut. Now I have 2 bases. And then this is going to get layered right on top of here. I'm going to pull in this pumpkin pie color and bring out my terrific Toadstools stamp set. And I like this one. Won't put that too far away because we'll need it for our sentiment. Let's get out a block. Now, when I stamp or when I punch using my toadstool punch, I need to punch it upside down. So I want to make sure that this image right here is going to be upside down and closest to the edge that I insert. So something that looks like that. And this punch is designed so that there's extra orange all the way around. You can see the extra orange that's all the way around there. And that way we get this nice little toadstool here. And I need a stem for my toadstool. I'm going to bring in this designer series paper again, which again is a celebration item, as was the Starstruck. And I'm gonna, that's a lot. Let's take this little thin piece, and I'm just gonna punch this little stem out, and that's what's gonna go on here. So this is a very simple card. It doesn't have to be 5,000 layers of cards and cardstock and lots of embellishments. You're making something from the heart, and that is what counts and what people will appreciate most. This is going to go up on a dimensional. So let's get out some dimensionals here. There we go. I'm going to put this right here. And where'd my, I'm going to have to cut, oh, here it is. Where'd this go? So this is just going to come up under here. I'm going to adhere that with just a little bit of glue. That's a lot of glue actually, but there we go with that. And then let's bring in our popping up to say hi sentiment. Let's get this on this. All right, now do we want it in orange or pink? I think we're gonna go with a melon mambo. All right, let's bring in that melon mambo. Get that inked up. And popping up to say hi. Well, we've got a couple of items here from Celebration. We've got the paper and we've got the folder. Now we might as well bring in these purple adhesive back sequins. That's an option too. So we can put some of these guys on here. I think this kind of clashes. I think I'm going to put on, I think I'm just going to put on some of these guys. These a little bit more neutral ones. And so we'll do, I don't know where I'm going to put them. All right, I had to edit out my husband barging in my room to tell me who knows what Super Bowl's on, so. Let's see, one more on here. He used the excuse that the cat wanted to come in, but, which is true, but so what? So there we go, popping up to say hi. And again, this quilted technique gives a really nice feel to the card, and you can see it in the light when you move it. You can see the pattern just like you can on sewn quilts. And there we have it. And that is it for my 3-part series on embossing folders. I hope you found this series useful. I'm going to link the previous episode at the end of this video, and then from that video you can find the link to the other one. Saves hunting it down in my on my channel. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I hope you've enjoyed this series, and I hope you love embossing folders as much as I do. They are a very inexpensive way to add a good punch to your cards. Have a great week, everybody, and hope to see you from snowy Maine next weekend.